Well, now it's time to put some colour on. I've got this hanging up and ready for a bit of paint, and I'm going to gradually mist on the coats and build them up. This is the paint I'm using, Seafoam Green. Now it's time for the dots. We simply figure out our point, go in and mark it with an awl. Then we take a 2mm drill, put in a dab of super glue, and our previously made little clay dot. We can trim it off. We should be good to go on to the next one. The neck is now sanded to 320. I've covered the fingerboard and I've got my oil finish. I've got a couple of screws put in here so that I can handle the neck without getting my hands really messy. And the oil finish is very simple to apply. You've got two rags, a wax on and a wax off. The idea is that you put your oil on, you work it into the wood, looks very nice, and then when you've put on a sufficient amount you let it sit for a bit and then you wipe it off again with the other rag. And you keep going, you let it dry, and you do this for days and days and days until you get the finish you want. Now there's lots of different approaches to finishing. What you can do is you can put on your basic colour and then build up clear coats and gradually get a really shiny factory finish, but that's not actually what I want with this particular base. What I want is a kind of matte, almost satiny finish, and a bit more satiny than other satin guitars. I want it to feel like the surface of plastic on the back of a remote control or something. And it's just a finish I've seen on a few guitars and really liked and I want to experiment with. So that's what I'm going to go for. And I'm achieving that by using sanding sponges. So I've got my finish on and it's leveled, and I'm just making sure that it's all properly leveled out, and then I'm going through sanding sponges and I'll finish with steel wool. While the base gets its sanding, we can have a look here. We can see the neck. It's oil finished. It's quite a thin oil finish, but it's nice. It's brought out the flame of the maple well. And here are some parts. This is how the pickups came out. Really happy with that. This is the control plate after oil finishing. Looks really good. I also made up some knobs, and you can see these actually use the same flame maple as the neck and the same wood as the fingerboard and a little clay dot in there. So these knobs are also oil finished. And as a last thing, I cut up a little jack plate out of a spare bit of fingerboard cut off, which again is oil finished. Now I'm going in with the steel wool, and there's absolutely no way that the camera could pick this up, but it just gives a really cool feeling. It's not quite matte, it's even a little bit rougher than that. It's just a fantastic feeling finish. If I was making this for somebody else, I wouldn't do this finish, but because it's an instrument for myself, I can do what I like. Oh no! I've got horrible steel wool residue all over my guitar body. How can I possibly clean it up? Help me, neodymium magnet man! Look at that. Just pulls the steel wool straight up and onto the magnet. Then all you need to do is clean out the magnet itself and you're good to go. And just in case anyone is worried about how you clean up the magnet afterwards, you'll see that the steel wool very easily pushes into clumps and you can just pull them off. The magnet cleans up really easily. Okay, now it's time for another job which is actually really important, and this is the shielding of the cavities. What I do is I use a shielding paint. This particular one is called Noise Hell, which is a weird name for a paint. And I make sure that I paint the inside of the cavities, being very, very careful not to drip this stuff on the body. In fact, I should use a cloth so that I'm making sure that I don't get those problems. And I will give a couple of coats. What this will do is reduce hum in the future, or at least theoretically it should. I've used it on the inside of the pickup cavities as well. And you know, there are all these debates amongst guitarists about whether or not shielding saps tone and pulls high end off and all that sort of stuff. And guitarists are going to debate about this until the end of time. But frankly, I want a bass that doesn't hum. So I'm going with the shielding paint. Right then, we solder up a quick harness. We've got 3 pots. These are all A250K, and for the tone pot I've got a nice no load pot, which should be fun. Here's the installation of the pickups. Going into their slot, they have a little foam pad which sits underneath so I can regulate their height. So there's our pickup controls, all wired up there. Jack's in place. We've got our ground wire out here that'll get soldered to the bottom of the bridge, and our pickups are ready to go. I've given them a test and it all works. Right then, here we are, all done. Just need strings. Right, well, here it is. The whole thing's put together. The nut hasn't had its grooves filed in yet, but apart from that, it's all done. And you can hear I've got all 5 strings working. They sound really nice. This is the sound of the neck pickup. This is the sound of the bridge pickup. Both together. We can roll off the tone a bit. It sounds, wow, really good. So once I've put all the grooves into the nut and I've set up the intonation properly and everything, then I'll do a demo video. Also, once I've actually learned to play something on the damn thing, I'll do a quick demo video showing how the sound is in different positions and all that sort of stuff. But for now, there we go. That is how you make a bass with hand tools.